you boys want a broccoli stick? Hopper, do you want a broccoli stick? Odie, do you want a broccoli stick? You guys want a treat? There you go. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to Monson Made This. Happy New Year. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome Ben back behind the camera. It's been a while since he's filmed a video for me, so I'm grateful that he offered to do it for me today. And if you've been around the channel for the last few weeks at least, you'll know that I'm on this whole food, plant-based diet journey. Things are going great. I'm gonna give updates in terms of weight loss on Saturdays, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, I'm gonna be sharing with you recipes as well as some tips that I think are really helpful if you also want to go on a whole food, plant-based journey like I am on. So today's tip is all about a bowl, and this is a bowl that works for me. I put a lot of my meals in this because I know how much food can fit into this, how that's gonna make me feel, and essentially how many calories I'm gonna be consuming. And I just feel like I don't have to stress about the quantities if I'm just filling this bowl up. So you need to find a bowl that's good for you, that fits your needs. Try a few out. Maybe your needs are a little bit bigger, maybe your needs are a little bit smaller, but for me, this is just a Kale bowl that it came in a set of bowls that actually has a lid, and this is perfect for me. So before I give you any more details about what I'm gonna be putting into this bowl, let me just pull all of the stuff out of my fridge that I already have prepped, and I'll start talking about the individual components. The last thing I want is this brown rice. This is a mess. This is a lot of stuff. It's overwhelming. I can barely even work on my surface here, although I will be making it work. It's just a lot of things that are cut up, that are pre-chopped, that are in containers in various stages of being used up. I will be doing a video a little bit later that talks about how I prep things. I'm not the person that goes to the grocery store, comes home, gets everything prepped and nice. This is just how it happens to be today. So as I start adding ingredients to my bowl, which I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna start talking about the importance of it in the dish, why I'm adding that particular thing, and what you could use instead if you don't have that particular item. The idea with this is that you're not restricting yourself and saying you can't eat this, you can't eat this, you can't eat this. Instead, it's about kind of the push out method, or the, I forgot what I called it in my last video, the crowd out method. There we go. It's like the crowd out method. If you're saying, I'm gonna have a grain, I'm gonna have a bean, I'm gonna have veggies, I'm gonna have a green, I'm gonna have some sort of like plant-based fat, that by the time you've constructed a meal with all those things, there really isn't any place for anything else to go in there, and you've pretty much just been saying yes to foods and not no to foods. So let's start putting things in this bowl, and I will talk about them as I go. The first thing I'm going to add to my bowl is some short grain brown rice. This was cooked up a couple of days ago. If you wanted to make these, this dish or this bowl warmer, you could obviously heat these things up. I kind of like everything just slightly room temperature. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm not really measuring everything, I'm just kind of eyeballing. And that's the benefit of the bowl as well, because I know exactly what the amount of rice that I want looks like in this bowl. And I'm going for just like about a cup for my needs. So that is about a cup of brown rice to start out the grain portion of my bowl. Now, if you wanted to use any other type of grain, you could use quinoa, which I guess is not technically a grain. I've been really into black rice or forbidden rice lately. Red rice is great. This is my whole grain that goes in my bowl, so just make sure that it's a whole grain. If you're trying to follow my plan, I wouldn't necessarily use white rice in this, but some sort of whole grain. It's gonna give a little bit of texture, a little bit of chew. It's gonna give fiber to the dish, and it's just a really great base to start with. The next thing is the bean. Here is a big jar of white beans that I cooked. These are Great Northern beans, actually. And this is a cool spoon I got on Amazon. That'll be linked. There's actually an Amazon affiliate link below the video that you can find this. It's just nice because it strains out the beans. So I cooked these beans in my Instant Pot, and I'm just adding about the same amount of beans as I added grain, so close to a cup. Again, that's for my needs, for my tastes, what I'm going for, what I'm trying to accomplish. Your amounts are gonna be different, but using this bowl, knowing my size bowl, helps me to portion that for myself. So that is the bean portion. This is also great with black beans. It's gonna change the flavor profile a little bit, but if you're more of a fan of black beans, Go for black beans, garbanzo beans, or chickpeas. Any other sizes of white beans work as well, but Great Northern are my current favorite. So now I have a grain, I have a bean. The next thing is a veggie, which I have a couple of options for that, and I'm gonna start prepping those. For my veggies today, I have kale and broccoli. This is just what I bought at the store, so it's what I have on hand. And normally I would be chopping these up, but because I have my chopping board all filled up right now, I'm just gonna be putting them in, breaking them apart with my hands. And again, not really measuring per se, but kind of understanding based on my bowl, how much I'm adding. And I love broccoli. If you would like to roast this, you could. If you wanted some other type of like sweet potato would be great in this, or any type of squash, any type of veggie of your choice that you love. Just keep in mind that the flavor profile is going to be slightly changed by what you're adding to it, but I think the sauce is more important in terms of the flavor profile, so it doesn't really matter what veggies you use, just use the veggies that you like, that you're willing to eat. And I think that's what this is about too, is that like, if you don't like things, don't put them in there. Don't try to force yourself to like them unless you really want to experiment. This is about taking things that you already like, that you already want to eat, combine them, and create yourself a great dish. Kale. If you don't like kale, use spinach, use something else. Again, I'd prefer to chop this, but I've kind of put myself into a little bit of a pickle here. So I'm just going to be ripping this, and I'm going to slightly massage the kale as well. It just makes it a little bit easier to eat later, and that just means to do this. I have some kale salads, or actually a kale salad recipe on my channel. I'll link that above or below. So I fully make this delicious massaged kale salad with lots of tahini and lemon juice, and the dressing for that is kind of the inspiration for this dressing that I'll be putting on as well. So let me put these behind me just to create a little bit more room, which ironically now I have room to chop after removing the things that
Your bowl looks like it's full already.
It does look like it's full, but you know what? I know what's in here. I understand the grains and the beans, which are the most calorically dense other than the avocado, which I'll add in a minute. So I don't mind filling it. Plus things like kale, they look big right now, but they will shrink down a little bit. Another, I guess, veggie, but more of like a flavor component, I thought that would work better than it did, is some fresh onion. Again, all these things could be cooked if you'd prefer, but I like the raw crunch. You want to pay attention to texture as well. You're going to have soft things like the beans, the grains have a little bit of chew, so it's nice to have some raw things in there, things that have a little bit of texture, so that you're not just having some mushy dish, that you're actually having things that you can chew through and crunch, and you're just getting a variety of feelings as you eat. Also, thinking about flavors, making sure that you have things that are salty and savory, but also a little bit sweet, a little bit acidic. And as we get into the sauce or the seasoning portion of this as well, you'll see how that's going to come into play.
So why not stir fry this in a pan?
You absolutely could. That would just take some more time. It would just require you to cook it. So yeah, all of this can literally go into a pan. You can saute it all together. You could even pre-cook the broccoli, air fry the broccoli. You could pre-cook the kale, saute it in a pan. You could caramelize the onions, and you could make all that ahead of time and have it in the fridge. But again, I kind of like the texture of the beans and the grains, which are a little bit on the softer side, having the raw crunch of the kale and the onion, which again, it's up to you what you like, what your particular needs are. I do have something that is cooked in here, and I'm just trying to use this up. In one of the videos I did recently, I cooked some, actually it was the breakfast video. I did some, it was a breakfast with a delicious cashew gravy, and I used tofu as like an egg portion of it, and I didn't season the tofu in that, and I even said, I'm not gonna add any seasoning to these things so that I'm not locking that food into that flavor profile so that I can use it in something else. So this is the last of that tofu. I'm cutting it up. It's not like any particular, it's not like teriyaki flavored or like taco flavored. It's just plain, and I'll season it how I like here in just a second. All right, we've got a lot going on. I'm gonna start paying attention to flavor now. And one thing that I really love in terms of flavor are olives. These are a garlic stuffed olive. Hey, Hopper. Hopper's come to see what's in here. I do share my stuff with them quite a bit, except for the onions, obviously. So I'm just gonna put a couple of olives down, and I'm just gonna thinly chop these. So I like the flavor of the olives. It adds a saltiness, it adds a brininess, it adds kind of a funk to it. Obviously, if you're not a fan of olives, this is something I just started adding in the last couple of days because I saw them and I was like, ooh, let's try olives. And I ended up really liking it. And I made this same bowl last night. Put it on Instagram. So many people have been asking about it, which is what led to me doing this video today. But before I had actually started eating it, or I started eating it before I added these olives to it, and it just was missing something. It's like there's a certain like flavor you get from these olives that I was missing, and I realized it was olives, so I added them. All right, so olives add a ton of flavor. My fat is the last word in my grain, a bean, a veggie, a green. The last thing is a seed, which can be any type of whole plant-based fat. So I'm going to be adding tahini as part of my sauce, but I'm also going to be adding a half of an avocado. So this is going to add good whole plant-based fat, also some fiber. And let's try to decide how I want to do this. I'm going to take the peel off so I can chop it on the board and just get some prettier cuts. You know what? And I'm actually going to add this at the end after I've tossed it so that I have a pretty topping and it'll look good for the thumbnail. Although it's a little bit too ripe to get pretty cuts, whatever. Now I'm just making an ugly mess.
So much for the pretty avocado.
You know what? Julia Child would say that it's the final, let me find a paper towel here. Julia Child would say it's just the final product that people see. So if they don't know what it looked like before, I mean, obviously I'm not like directly quoting her, but if they don't know what it looked like before, they'll have no idea. So
I mean, it doesn't look like great now.
No, but I can work it out. All right, so I should have chopped this later, but I've decided the last one, hello again, Hopper, that I want to add it to the top. All right, it's time for the dressing. As I mentioned, I'm using tahini because I like the fat that it gives it. I like the richness. This is the part of the game when, obviously, you could choose your grain, you could choose your bean, you could choose your veggies. It's a choose your own adventure. But in terms of dressings, this is where I like to add a little bit of plant-based fat. So you could go into like a peanut direction, like sort of like an Asian peanut sauce. You could take this in whatever your favorite tahini directions are. I pretty much just love the combination of tahini, lemon juice, nutritional yeast, which I have back there. So I like the slight bitterness and the creaminess of the tahini. I like the brightness of the lemon juice. I also have some homemade soy yogurt, which I do have a video for. This is made in the Instant Pot. And I've started to add this lately as well because it adds a bit of creaminess, also a little bit of protein, probiotics. It adds a little bit of acidity to it. Let's do the lemon. Talked about this before. This is my chosen method of juicing lemons. I've tried the kind where you press them, and I just think this is the best. And I do have to strain the seeds, but I feel like I get a better yield out of the lemons doing it this way. This is a thrifted, I'm adding a whole half of a lemon, as you can see. It's a thrifted lemon juicer or a citrus juicer. If you do want me to do a video that's all about my favorite kitchen gadgets or utensils that I think are really helpful, then let me know in the comments below if you want to see more things where I talk about my favorite citrus juicer. All right, so we've got the tahini, we've got the soy yogurt, we've got the lemon juice. Going to grab the nutritional yeast, like I said, and there's one more ingredient from the cupboard that I need to add for optimum flavor. And if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I put nutritional yeast and what else, Ben?
Bragg's liquid aminos.
Bragg's liquid aminos and pretty much everything. Bragg's liquid aminos is like a low sodium soy sauce. It is gluten-free, and this is pretty much the only salt component that I'm adding to this dish. If you felt that it was under-seasoned, obviously add some more salt. Nutritional yeast, I just am obsessed with the combination of tahini, nutritional yeast, Bragg's liquid aminos. There's something magical and some type of acidity like lemon juice or apple cider vinegar. I just love what that does. One more thing, sorry. Black pepper. All right, and now I'm going to try my best to toss this together, get it all coated, and then I will add my avocado to the top.
Be a lot easier to mix with a bigger bowl.
You know, you're right. Point taken. However, this whole video is about using a bowl for portion control, understanding how much you're putting of your ingredients in here. I also like that when I'm done with this, it looks really full. And even though I'm aware of the quantity I'm eating, and I know that a lot of it is just the bulk from the veggies and the kale, I like sitting down with a huge bowl and feeling like I'm getting a lot of food. I don't feel like I'm missing out, or I feel like I'm not getting enough. Like eating a full bowl from a bowl that's theoretically pretty large, it just makes you feel like you're eating something substantial. All right, so that's tossed to my liking. If it didn't look sauced enough for you, add some more tahini, add some more lemon juice. I'll be tasting it in a second. Actually, I should probably taste it before I add the avocado. Let me grab a fork here. Let's give this a try. I'm just testing to make sure that it's dressed properly, the dressing has enough seasoning. I don't know what it is about this. It just hits, like it's salty, it's acidic, it's briny. Ben tasted this yesterday when I made it, and he thought it was missing a little bit something for his own palate. For me, it really hits. He'd suggested things like maybe balsamic vinegar, because what I'm thinking is that his palate is thinking that it needs a little bit more sweetness. So I would also maybe add some raisins to this, or some dried fruit would be really good, dried cranberries, something to boost up the sweetness, because it is really rich. It's got a nice acidity, it's got a nice savoriness to it, but it is missing kind of a sweet component if you're used to having that in your food.
It's a lot of bitter.
Bitter is a strong word. I'm not trying to throw Ben under the bus here, but I do think that Ben confuses bitter and acidity quite often, which is very common. I love him, I love his palate, but I do find when I think something is nice and acidic and bright, he reads it as bitter. But that's for us to sort out behind the scenes. All right, I'm ready to add my avocado. I'm gonna try to make this look attractive. I also put, last night when I put it on Instagram, when I put it on Instagram last night, I also added some hemp seeds, so I'll probably sprinkle some of those on top as well. Okay, we'll just hide the unattractive parts of the avocado and just put them on when I go to eat it later. I'm gonna grab my hemp seeds. The last thing I'm gonna add is some Tabasco sauce. I'm gonna wipe my hands, and then I'm ready to start digging into this and say my final goodbyes and send you off on your way to make this dish for yourself. Even though I already tasted this for seasoning and it was pretty spot on, I'm gonna taste it again for you all. For me personally, this weight loss journey has been about adding foods that are going to make me feel how I want to feel. I know that by focusing on fiber and protein and fat, that by having whole grains, beans, things like avocado, I feel really good after a meal. So that's what I'm trying to build meals based on. Sometimes I get more creative and I make my breakfast hash with sweet potatoes, and I make a cashew gravy and I get all fancy and I cook it. Other times I go into my fridge, take things that I prepped ahead of time, throw them together in a bowl and eat them like this. This really hits the spot. It really fills me up. I know that this bowl is a serving for me and my needs and what my goals are. Again, find your own bowl, find what your needs are in terms of the journey that you're on, and make your own version of this with your own grains, your own beans, your own veggies, greens, and your own seeds. So before taking another bite, I'm gonna say goodbye. Thank you all for watching. If you have any other ideas for videos that you'd like to see, comment below. If you want to see a gadgets video, if you have any other tips you'd like to share with people that are on a similar journey as I am, please comment that below as well. Thanks to those of you that have joined the channel on Patreon as well as on YouTube. I will be eating this for you in just a second there on Monsonmadethis, so thanks again. And I will see you on Saturday with my weigh-in weight loss update video, and I'll be back soon after that with another recipe video. Goodbye.